Okay, so this is episode 00 pilot run of a show that I'm thinking of calling the Raptors Den. Basically, we have myself here, Dan. I am your host. We have Solomon here, our college basketball guy, and we also have Peter here, our residential black guy that makes this podcast legitimate.
Sure.
So I don't know, what do you guys want to talk about? Maybe talk about yourselves a little bit.
Well, yep, my name's Peter. I'm here, the residential black guy here to make it all legitimate for us here. Not much more basketball experience. Been playing basketball since I was about 7 or 8 years old. Love the game. Very big Raptors fan. Everything about basketball from the beginning to the end. I love it. The G League is also really up and coming as well. But that's everything from me. Solomon?
So I'm Solomon. I play college ball over at Georgian up in Barrie, and yeah, 6'8", big man. Always been a fan of other big men in the league. Take my cues from the legends like Shaq and the big Chinese tower Yao Ming.
Yes,
So you're a
yeah.
shooter too, a big and a shooter.
Well, the shooting needs a lot of work, but like that hook shot down low is pretty tight. So
Oh
that's
yeah, that's
that's
all
what you
you
go for.
need as a big man. Is that
That's
one
it.
post move, and that's all you would really need.
Yeah, been a
Cool.
big enthusiast. Got into it in grade 11. People were just like, "You're so tall, you should be able to dunk." And I was like, "I guess so." So then, like, white boy learned how to jump, and
So you can dunk.
yes,
Oh man, I'm so
yes.
jealous, dude.
What's the best dunk that you can pull? Is it just a two-hand
I'm.
power?
Oh, I actually don't do two hand. I do 1 foot, one hand. It's just the big man basics dunk package there.
That's all you need. It's better than what I can do. So
Yeah.
All right. So our goal for this podcast basically is, anybody that knows me and where this is going to be uploaded is going to be uploaded on the channel Faulty Logics. I have another podcast going on there, and this is just going to be a segment or an extension from that brand. Um, So the goal with this podcast basically is we're gonna talk about basketball, of course, and we're gonna rep our city, Toronto. Not enough people talk about our city and the Raptors, so we're gonna come out here every week and try to talk about them and give you some inside looks on it. So if you're a Toronto Raptors fan, you gotta subscribe to the channel. We're also gonna talk about other stuff going on in the NBA as well too. So I guess on today's episode, we're gonna talk about first thing on the list is the Raptors and the Marc Gasol possible trade.
Rumors, yeah.
We're going to talk about our rookies of the year and also the MVP race that we have going on. And of course, every week we're going to have something new to talk about and try to make it as interesting as possible for you guys. So, yeah, starting off, Raptors. What do you guys think of a possible Marc Gasol trade?
would it benefit us to get Mel Gasol for the interim? Yes. For the future, of course not. He is a little bit older in age. We have a lot of youth big men that we can take into account here. But I honestly think if it is a possibility to get Marcus Gasol, we have to put all of our boats, all of our chips into one basket and try and get him if we are trying to realistically win
Yeah,
in the next 3 to 5 years.
it's a win now move.
It is a win now move.
Is,
Has to be.
but at the same point, you have to look at, and the big thing, I was doing a little bit of research into this. A big thing you have to consider with this Marc Gasol trade is what do we have to give up? JV's the first piece,
Easily.
but 26 million for 16 million means we still have to cover $10 million, and that's immediately going to come out of Poto, Siakam, worst case
OG.
scenario, Og, right? Like,
Yeah.
we don't, those are pieces that we don't necessarily want to get rid of. Like, ideally, we can lose Podol or Siakam and be, like, kind of okay, but losing the small forward that's finally kind of filling that gap with Powell being down right now would be a really big loss. Like, yes, veteran leadership, incredible defensive prospect with Marc Gasol. The court knowledge and all that he'd bring is beyond what JV can offer us right now. Like, love the guy, was a lot of fun, but he's just stayed in a young mindset and hasn't really grown up to be a veteran kind of defender, right? So what are we left with, right? A lot of people are saying that Ibaka wants to do a more center role, and with his prior defensive showing that he had when he was younger, he has the right mindset. The athleticism may have gone down a bit due to age, but moving him to the center isn't not
The
ideal.
stop.
It's not like a problem to do that.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
true, but I don't see that being the actual solution to our problems. Yes,
I
if we
agree.
move him, it will be a quick fix. It won't be the solution to get us that championship ring, which is the end goal. How would you feel about losing Powell instead of keeping OG, get his contract when he's off the rookie year, because we did give Powell that big new contract. What was it? 48 million over 4 years or something silly like that. If we give him a JV Powell deal for Gasol and a draft pick, is that the move that can possibly get us to the next level?
My issue is that if it's going to be a draft pick, it has to be a second round, because we already don't have a draft pick till 2019, and that's a big issue for us. I think it would be wise that if we were to do that move, that we consider asking them for a draft pick with Marc Gasol, so we get a little bit more back. But then the Powell JV thing would be enough that if we're getting a draft pick next year, it's doable. My only issue is that, again, the brass tacks of the whole situation is like, yeah, Marc Gasol's leadership and ability will be beneficial. Financially, his contract will take up so much space within who we can bring in to get further into the win now mode that, in my opinion, it's just going to kind of short sight that. It's not having enough foresight looking at the Marc Gasol trade. Short term, absolutely. That win now, we will see that increase and etc. But the foresight to will it continue after that first initial, yeah, he's so good on defense, the rest of the team's playing through his defense. Once that is established, then it becomes the defense is good, but our offense is still trying to run through DeRozan every single time or whatever, right? So we have to watch that.
Well, even with that win now mentality, if they were to get Marc Gasol right now, can they really win now? Do they have what it takes to compete against Boston, to compete against Cleveland?
Yes, I think that we do. Cleveland, of course, it's going to go to 7 games regardless. Like, if we do have a shot, we would have to beat them in 6 or 7. We're not going to go in 4 or 5. But I think we would have enough gas if we did have Gasol to bring us to the finals, purely because we still have a decent bench with Pascal Siakam coming off. We have CJ Miles that can lead the bench as well, even losing Powell, who can lead for the scoring off the bench. But then OG can take in the spot for defensive purposes on LeBron, on, I was going to say Gordon Hayward, but Boston doesn't look like they're going to have Gordon Hayward if that was the case. But we do have the defense to guard the big stars. But if we have Marc Gasol to guard the big man stars of the other team, I think that will bring us over the edge to win a championship, if it is possible.
Going off track a little bit, you mentioned Gordon Hayward. They said his boot is coming off soon.
The guy on my team who sprained / broke his ankle back at our preseason back in beginning of October just took his boot off.
Yeah.
Right?
Doesn't mean you're going to play.
It's a small thing.
Right,
if you watched how nasty his break was, that's a Paul George break.
Yeah, it's still soft.
That's a full season break.
A Kevin Ware, Louisville, circa, 2013?
Yeah. There's a lot of hope.
You need to take the time to rehabilitate it properly, because if they get him out too early and he injures it again, you now have this player that you paid a lot of money for, and he's going to miss so much, and he can't miss that much.
And Boston's doing pretty good without him anyways.
That's the surprise of the season, is Boston's rebound without Gordon Hayward.
So surprising.
Where the hell did that come from?
That's a good question. That's what I was actually pointing out. When you look at the problems that you'd have to deal with on each team, Cleveland obviously has LeBron. They've got Kevin Love, and Kevin Love is a rough matchup for us because we have Ibaka, but we don't have like an aggressive, only defensive-minded perimeter stopping 4, right, or big man in general. Right, so it's a problem matchup. LeBron at any point can try to take over a game, even at his age, which it's going to start to reflect soon. He's still able to do what many people at that age won't be able to do. So those are always going to be issues for us. Thomas, is he expected before the end of the season? I don't think.
Yep.
He's
expected January 20.
So there you go.
So I think even mid-December.
So that is going to be a big change up to Cleveland, where now Cleveland has 3 issues that we have some answers for, but realistically, it's going to take a difference. In my opinion, it's going to take a difference in the way that we play. Like, no necessary knocks against Casey. He's done a great job and all. But I think running the isolation play that we're used to seeing and stuff like that is only going to continue to hurt Toronto, because when a team only has to worry about one guy on the floor at a time, it's the easiest defense in the world. Like, even in college ball, if you see one guy going to it, you can make him take charges. You can trap him. You can do everything else. And if they have to pass it to somebody who's never held the ball in 3 games because it's always to the other guy, that's easy. That's easy defense. And we can't give that to teams, especially with like LeBron and Thomas, because those are strong defenders.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think that's exactly what happened to us last year with DeRozan isolating.
But I do see from for Raptors this year, they are trying to get away from the ISO ball.
Yes.
They've been doing more transition and head up basketball.
Yes.
And I like that. I like that
There's
a
a
lot.
lot
And
more
you can see
ball movement.
DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. I think last game they combined it for over 20 assists for the backcourt, which is that's never happened last season.
That's good basketball.
So that is good
what that is.
basketball.
It's just
They
good
have a lot of
basketball.
trust in these young guys like OG getting those open threes in the corner. Last year, our rookies would never shoot that before.
No.
So now they're giving the experience, they're giving the love to OG, to Pascal, to Jakob, saying, we trust you guys. Here's the ball. It doesn't have to be us two. Like, we are still the focal point of the team, but we're not the whole team. It's not live or die with Kyle and DeMar.
Yeah.
But now it's a whole team effort, which I think will bring us to the end if we get that one extra piece. But Gasol might not be the
I don't
piece.
think Gasol's that piece.
Might not be the piece, but I think he would be a step in the right direction.
What about a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who seems to be getting shopped around?
DeAndre is. I liked him for a long time. I really have. He started expanding that hook. That's the issue, right? It's kind of over him. Like with a strong pass first point guard like Chris Paul, he's exceptional because his pick and roll game was no problem. Like my favorite dunk, I can't say of all time because the dunk de la Morte by Vince Carter will always hold that numero uno position, but
One on Brandon Knight.
DeAndre Jordan, Brandon Knight was by far the second dirtiest dunk of all time, and that's like including the Shaq riding on the back, the Rain Man slamming it down on Buddy, and
How about
What
Blake
about-
Griffin
Big
over the
Timothy-
Nick guy,
Timothy
Timothy
Mozgov.
Mozgov.
Blake has done it over a few people. Perkins got eaten twice,
Yep.
right? So like Blake's are good. I mean, like when him and Pau Gasol had their little beef when he kept riding on his back, that was a lot of fun to watch. But it becomes a situation of like, I mean, I'm sorry, DeAndre ruined Brandon Knight. It was a matter of like at least when Pau was like there and getting like played over top of, kind of crappy for him. He's just a bit in the wrong position. But Brandon Knight made a very
Stupid move.
It was. I mean, try to be conservative, and I'm not going to say stupid. He made an instinctive reaction to play defense, and didn't take the time to think this man is going to eat me.
I am 6'5".
Yeah.
DeAndre Jordan is 7 feet tall with a running start with a lob. There's nothing you can do.
And
There's nothing
that's not even including the weight difference. Like
Yes.
you're going to be eaten alive, and he didn't have the foresight to think I'm not just let him go. He wanted to play aggressive defense,
Which is
and
good.
I like the instinct, but not on a
Do
big.
like the outside.
That is a big.
Speaking of the dunk, I think one of the dunks that was also up there was that dunk LeBron had on Jason Terry. Like
That was really controversial though, because that was super unsportsmanlike. Like
I loved it.
it looked so good.
Waited for him.
It looked so good, but like legitimately, the three of them, like they were doing it just to like ruin Terry and get a crowd going, and that's what happened. I mean, they got
and it was the rivalry too.
Yeah,
that
He
plays into
waited
it,
for him.
right?
That was not a basketball.
It was just not. It was not
It's so
a
good.
sportsmanlike
It,
way to
it
treat
wasn't
Terry.
a basketball.
What about
It was they was playing street ball. They saw a guy that wasn't supposed to be there, and they clowned him. That's all it was. But
Yeah, they clowned him for sure.
As a spectator, as a fan, that was awesome.
amazing.
I loved it.
Amazing.
But like for Celtic fans out there,
I
like,
just
I'm
felt
sorry.
bad for Terry. That was a bad day.
I'm sorry.
Because I would have to say like among my top dunks, like that had to be one of them. Like LeBron has got a lot of dunks that are in my top, and like one of them is also
He's a freight train.
when he dunked over what's John Lucas the third, I think.
When he jumped over him,
Over him.
that was such a good dunk.
Dude.
A putback. Was it a putback or an oop?
I think it was alley oop.
It wasn't
When
an
he was
oop.
on
They threw it and he just
Chicago?
jumped over.
Yeah.
No, it was. I thought it was Raptors that Lucas was on at the time.
At the time, it was either.
It was red. It was
a
red
black
white.
jersey,
It's
yeah,
a
something
trick.
like that.
It's a hard one to pick up.
Don't
Yeah,
remember
he
that
jumped right over him.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one where back in the day, this is like way back to LeBron in Cleveland, when he dunked on Damon Jones, I think when he had the mask.
Yeah.
And he, like,
okay.
he slaps
Let
him
that
out of
one
the
go.
way.
Yeah.
It's like, and he
That
just takes
was-
the mask off after, and he smiles.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, LeBron's just too aggressive sometimes.
He
You
Craziness.
love it. You gotta
You
love it.
can't. The one thing is, I used to have like real big issues with like the popularity that they had. Like it was almost like way too rabid. But at this point, at the maturity stage, it's like you can clearly tell that he devoted himself to basketball, taking care of himself, ensuring that he was in the best position to play the best basketball
Yeah.
as often as possible. And you can never try to take anything away from a guy like that. That's
Right.
phenomenal.
It's unbelievable, especially with the amount of basketball LeBron James has played,
Yeah.
especially in the last 7 years, going to the finals every single year. Don't forget he had one Olympic run in between those
He's
7
had
years
two,
as well.
hasn't he?
Well, within the 7 years of back-to-back
Yeah.
finals, he had the 1 year in there. So that is playing maximum basketball for 7 years being the greatest basketball player of that generation, still playing at that level, is unbelievable.
It's
And
Unbelievable. And
he's
never
having
having,
the best season of his career
and he's
again.
never missed significant time from injury.
Right.
He's missed maybe a week here, a week there.
Yeah,
Never
he
anything
takes care of
I
significant.
think
Yeah.
the number was in his entire 15-year career, he has missed 82 games.
82 games.
so a whole
Yeah.
season.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, just one season in
Over
total.
15 years of being that dominant, being that big, like
Yep.
toting that weight around the court and the size and the beating that he gets going into the paint every single game.
That's a whole
That's-
other discussion.
Now-
That's
yeah.
unbelievable.
One guy that I can definitely say probably inspired the way that he takes care of himself was Jordan, obviously. Because,
Kobe,
well, Jordan more so because
Jordan was
after the during the end of the reign of the Detroit Bad Boys, right? Like he got slapped by the Jordan rules, and his entire decision after that was like, I'm gonna put on weight and be stronger next season, so that I don't get clowned all the time. And he did, and Detroit had to respect him. They were like, nah, like he came back a whole different player this year. Like we could not do what we did to him last time. And I think you see a lot of that in LeBron's game. He stayed strong. There was the one year where there was a lot of controversy going over how lean he was, right? To be a bit more still strong and a bit but lighter, right? To be a little bit gentler on his bones. And I think now he's in that, like, he's found that perfect kind of niche weight and everything else.
That's also
But
like
he plays consistent.
that's also another thing that people are bringing up as well too, is how he's like leading the league, like top 2 in the league in points in the paint, and
Really?
drives. I think.
Drives, I can see it.
And he
But-
can shoot now. Before he couldn't shoot for
Right.
garbage, and now he can actually shoot too. So like,
But he's not.
He's taking them.
He's not even in the top 10 for like free
Foul
throws.
shots, foul
Yeah,
shots.
so a lot of
Shot-
people are
shot
saying
attempts.
like what the hell? He's driving to the lane more than anybody else other than Giannis, and he's not getting foul calls on him. Right? It's ridiculous.
Well,
like, so
here's the other thing though: is he has been a high foul percentage player for so long that there's got to be a point where the refs kind of stop calling it. And the big thing now is, if you notice, when he goes, most players they'll like smart contest, but when he goes for that last little bit, if you're not in the right position, they let him go.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah,
him
a
go,
lot of
because
times
why
they-
give him an
yeah.
and one, right? That's
Yeah.
that's realistically the thing is that everyone has respect. There's not necessarily a fear, but there's the respect that like if he's got you, don't give him the N1. And I think that's been a big thing for coaching too, is that if you're going to coach defense against him, it's like you do everything in your power to stop that first step and him driving. But if he's got you beat, let him. 2
But
points is a lot less damaging than the N1,
the
and then
crowd
you have
getting
foul
into
trouble.
it.
Yeah.
But I've also seen over this season a little bit as well, is the refs are sort of getting away from the superstar calls. Like James Harden, every time he got in the paint last year, it was
Foul.
Yeah.
2 shots,
Yeah.
regardless of it.
he's still leading the league.
He's
though.
still leading the league, but like now you get to see it being more, I don't want to say spread out evenly or being called fairly, but it's no more if James Harden's in the paint, Russell Westbrook's in the paint, or LeBron James is in the paint, 2 shots are coming up regardless.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why he's not leading the foul shots anymore. Refs have been having coaches in their ear all the time saying you're giving their superstar calls, where DeMar DeRozan was never getting those superstar calls. So they're saying, why for one superstar but not for my superstar?
Yeah.
So I can see it being a little bit more spread out evenly across the board. Is it fair? Not necessarily. But it's the way it's going. It's heading right now.
So since we're also heading in that direction, let's just switch this itinerary around and just talk about the MVP race, since we're talking about James Harden as well too.
That's true. And LeBron James, Greek Freak, those are all the people that are always in there. Well, not
No.
Greek Freak, but LBJ's always in the conversation.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that he has another legitimate shot to win the MVP this year?
I think so, but I mean, you have to look at the grand spectrum of things. At the end of the day, all of the players that are at the MVP voting stage right now that people are looking at, they're all playing outstanding basketball. I think the biggest thing that's going to come down to the end of it is going to be the win percentage. Right? Westbrook ran away with it last year. Like, everybody thought it was going to be a tight race between him and Harden, but he passed Oscar Robertson
You
for the most
averaged-
triple doubles in a season. Like,
Right.
come on.
Averaged one. Like, especially in this game of basketball this year, like Oscar Robertson not taking anything away from the Big O, like triple double back in that time is unbelievable. But the competition level in this basketball,
It's so
Yeah.
much
so
faster.
so much tighter, so much quicker, so many good players on multiple teams.
There's more analytics to be like, hey, we know where your spots are. We'll stop you there instead to like help reduce that.
And he still averaged a
Still.
triple double, and he still killed teams single handedly. There was not another player on Oklahoma City Thunder at last season.
Yeah.
Hands down, it was supposed to be Russell Westbrook. It
He
would have been
put
a
forward
robbery.
the MVP effort. Yeah.
It would have been a
100%.
robbery if it was anybody else. But yet again, with all the pieces around LeBron James, was it fair for him to be in the conversation last year, like he is in every single year for the last
That's
15 years?
he wasn't
Yes.
even in the top 3.
In voting,
Yeah,
but that's
But he
different
was
from
still being discussed all year round for
Right.
MVP. But he always is, and I think
that's
it's fair.
what I think.
Again,
Agreed.
he's a player who puts in the effort on himself more than any other, and more than any other player I know. Like Simmons would be like the only guy, and that's why he's been nodding his head towards Simmons. Is that Simmons put in the effort since his injury to come
I was
back
gonna say,
phenomenal,
injury made
and
him do it.
like I don't care what you say, Simmons is playing unreal as a rookie. It's the Blake Griffin syndrome
Yeah.
of he lost a season due to a big injury, like Blake Griffin did, and then you come in and they just blow you away. They're just like you could argue that maybe being in this year would be an easier chance for him to get Rookie of the Year, but that's not true.
Classic.
Last year he would have walked away with it. He
Yeah.
would have been able to play half as good as he does now and still get Rookie of the Year last year. This year he does have a little bit of a race. There is a bit of a race.
Mitchell in Utah.
Donovan Mitchell has been great.
blowing up.
Well, Peter knows me. Like I've been on the Ben Simmons
You
bandwagon
had his
since
jersey
the
on
beginning.
draft night.
I had his jersey
I'm okay with that.
the day before he broke his foot. I bought the
Yes.
jersey.
Draft day.
Next day breaks his foot. I'm like, oh my god.
But hey, your devotion and your commitment to Ben Simmons has paid off. He
Yeah.
looks to be the real deal.
Yeah.
In the next 5 to 7 years, when LeBron James calls it a career, if he does after 20 seasons, which he should, it's going to be the Greek Freak, Giannis, and Ben Simmons' league.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be those two going back and forth.
I'm not disagreeing with that because again, Giannis is definitely like at the table for sure. In like the once LeBron is kind of done, then it's going to be a bit of a
Who's next?
right. And I think a big thing that you have to look at is like it's hard to sit there and say that LeBron's had this kind of running away. I think a big thing is that the team that was built around like as for me, my all-time I wish he was more of an MVP or in an MVP situation would be KD. The man is by far the best scorer of all time. LeBron James has got incredible head smarts for the pass, defense, every like
Yeah.
best
he's an
all-around
all-around
player of all
player.
time. But the absolute best like pure shooting scorer will score over anybody in any situation. Give him the ball its points is KD.
Agreed.
And that's even putting him over MJ. Like
Yes.
KD shoots the ball
Because he's
and
6'11". He's a huge monster.
and
It
he's
doesn't
got the
matter.
big tarantula hand.
In his
Can't get
hands,
blocked.
you can't teach length and you can't teach basketball IQ when you're in the paint or around the paint. So, I agree with that. KD, if you need 2 points, you're down by down by 2 with a couple seconds left. I'd rather have KD than LeBron. But for a whole season, I'd rather have LeBron than KD,
For sure.
purely for the overall
defense and
leadership,
offense, yeah.
everything of that nature. Yes, KD, I think he can do a lot more if he didn't go to the Warriors because
Yep.
now his skill set is being diluted with all
Yes.
the other players around him.
And that's a lot of any team with a big three has that issue every single time. There's not a single time where you don't see that. Like
Except with LeBron in Miami. Even though he had the big three around him, it was clear to say that LeBron was the
year
man.
one. None of them knew who the heck
Who
was getting the
who
ball.
was the man?
Right.
Year
right.
one is the defining thing. And that's the thing.
And that's
is
when they lost.
Yes, and that's why there's always the year one syndrome now. Whenever you get a new big three, OKC being the big one right now, year
Yes,
one,
it is.
right? They're phenomenal together. They all have incredible individual skills, but like a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, why don't we get a more offensive center over Steven Adams down there?" It's like, why would you? Like, you don't need it. You have 3 of the best scorers in the league of all time, and they're doing their thing. Like, why try to make more offense when realistically you just need players who can set screens and get those better players open?
Defense and rebound.
All right.
Yeah.
So MVP guys, top 3 this season. I'll start. I got LeBron James. I got Kevin Durant, and I got Giannis.
Fair.
Peter.
All good small forwards.
All good. Yeah, hey, and those are the key positions. Top 3 MVP for this season, no particular order, of course.
Right.
I think it has to be the Greek Freak Giannis, the way he started this year. He was my number 1 overall pick in my fantasy league. Not
Oh.
disappointed about that at all.
I tried to get him first pick
I
this year too.
have
I got
Giannis.
Towns instead.
See? I got Giannis at number 1. LeBron James has to be in conversation every year. He's just a generational player. Number 3 is a toss-up. It does depend on the win percentage at the end of the year.
Mhm.
If Houston keeps balling the way they are balling, I think it's going to be James Harden's year. just because he didn't get it last year. If
That
he
team is a
continues
shooting
on,
machine.
they are just three
It's a
and gun, like
it's a
run and gun
shooting
threes. Mike D'Antoni offense, but yet, hey, Mike D'Antoni got 2 MVPs for Steve Nash. Why can't he get one for James Harden? I think he can very well do it.
Yep.
Those are my 3: LeBron, Greek Freak, James Harden. Would not be surprised if you hear a little bit of Westbrook if he can get OKC going.
Yeah.
That's a big
who's
F.
my favorite mention right now at number 5 for the current MVP standings is Joel Embiid. Like, give it up for a kid's second year, and he's already in number 5 into the discussion.
I like Joel. I really like him, but I think it's too early for him to be in
think
the
it's
MVP
too
discussion.
early.
Let's see him play 40 games in a season, and then come and talk to me.
Yeah.
We might have a Greg Oden situation.
Oh, no, don't say it. No, you got to knock
on wood. Hopefully,
you
I
don't.
I do love
don't
myself.
Bring up that name.
Some Embiid, but let's get him 42 games. Let's get him to half a season. Let's get to the All-Star break without any big injuries, and then you can come and talk to me with his numbers, and let's see what he got.
But even if he's playing it the way he is right now, I don't think he's deserving of an MVP.
On that team, it's Simmons.
I think so as well, too. Because when you look at the term MVP, most valuable player, you also want to look at how much of an impact they have on their team.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I didn't like in the past couple of years is Stephen Curry's first MVP. I don't feel like he deserved it because if you take him out of that situation, put him on a different team, he's not going to make that team that good. And I think it was his team that made him better.
No, exactly. He's a system player. He's
Yeah.
like Kawhi.
So I don't feel like he deserved the MVP. The second time he got it, sure, he was shooting from half court. Like,
that was silly.
That's single skill.
That was silly.
So there's no doubt about it. He deserved that second one.
Yeah.
But that first one,
But Solomon, we're still waiting for your 3 MVPs.
I mean, again, I'm going to go with the no particular order. Giannis for sure, right? I want to put Harden in that conversation, but my problem is that he even has a commercial now where he says, "You're calling me defensive? I'm not defensive. Why are you calling me defensive?" And that's the whole problem. Like, some of the better scorers in the league are at the 2 guard. And yes, he can outshoot them and outpoint them, but you still have to defend. You can't let your team down on the defensive end. Him scoring
30 points, but then his man scored 25. This is a really big difference. It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
So the Greek Freak for sure. His number totals across the board are so complete. Again, LeBron's in the conversation. I mean, it's hard again because as much as he takes care of himself, it's still a long season and then a postseason, and like Thomas will be the deciding factor for me if LeBron's going to get it. If Thomas comes back, the team does better, and LeBron's still putting up the similar numbers, right? Because his role of being more of a facilitator isn't eaten up by Thomas.
Yeah.
Then, sure, absolutely. But if his role diminishes as Thomas comes back, then that's where I have to draw it. What I will say though is, as arguable as it might be, is Kyrie on Boston. He's unreal. Unreal.
So that's your third?
I never really thought of that.
I'm gonna put Kyrie as a strong. Again, I'm gonna wait on LeBron to put him into my top 3.
Right.
Kyrie, I will definitely put in that conversation of top 3 because I used to have people just bandwagon him too hard. But like, I'm sorry, you see him play, the way he dribbles, the way he makes himself space, the way he facilitates. It's a beautiful. It's like a Chris Paul style game. Yeah. Right.
It's funny because one of the things I said the past couple of years while he was in Cleveland was that I was saying that he could be an MVP, but he'll never be an MVP as long as LeBron's on his team. Yeah. And when he left, I was like, I don't know if he could be an MVP, like the way that he plays, but now he's proving me wrong.
Yeah, all the doubters are gone for sure.
All gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was 2, if not LeBron. So who would your third be?
Yeah, it's tough because it's a numbers game, right? And a lot of the players that I'd like to see as an MVP are on teams that are multi-star talented, right? Like, I'd love to say Karl Anthony Towns, but with Andrew Wiggins and Chris Dunn, Jimmy Butler, you've got a very good team that's a good team without necessarily like an individual star that stands so far out from the rest of them that you can call him more valuable than somebody else.
It's true.
Right? Kyrie on Boston, 100%, right? Mm-hmm. You can't argue. Like, Tatum stepping up, sure, is like, and that's going to be a rookie.
But he's a rook.
Right? That's a rookie of the year kind of conversation. But Kyrie has stepped up on Boston to the point where it's like, even if you guard him, he's still dribbling circles around you. Yeah. That's unreal. That's unreal. You look at Giannis, again, at any point, if he takes 2 steps from the 3-point line, it's a dunk, it's a layup. He's too long. Like, it's so strong again.
Teach length. I love it.
So it's like, when it comes down to the last situation, it's a tough call because a lot of the other players that I'd put in that top three are kind of shrouded amongst their buddies. It's a shoulder to shoulder thing, right? Like you want to say Westbrook, you want to say Paul George, you want to say, anybody from Minnesota. Like it's hard. So for me, it's the third place would I guess I just got to kind of eke out there and just put LeBron out there because it's an easy thing to say right now. But again, my real decision on whether or not he's going to be MVP will be once Thomas gets back and we see if he's still putting up the same numbers as with and without Thomas. And it's not so much producing. He will still score. He'll probably score more because with a point guard to feed him the ball in the more positions better.
Take away a defender.
Right? You can't sleep on Thomas. If you leave him, it's a three. It's
especially in the fourth quarter.
And with a team that already has so much 3-point firepower, you can't sleep on one, especially not the point guard, and think like, oh yeah, we'll just double team LeBron to stop it. It's no. The moment you stop doing that, Thomas's numbers are going to pick up. So it's
with LeBron, the reason why I feel like he has to be in the conversation, again, like I said, it's how that player impacts the team. Like, the Cavaliers' record without LeBron James is pretty shit.
It's
like
Garbaggio.
They can't win games.
It's Garbaggio.
Yep. Right? So that's why I feel like you have to put him in the conversation. Like,
I agree.
That team is not winning without him.
Yeah, that's why I said it's right now, absolutely. I mean, after Thomas will be kind of where I have my true decision point towards the end of the year. But yeah, no, absolutely. Like, those are the three players for me, Giannis, Irving, and LBJ, that just, without them, the team is not the team.
Yeah. One thing I like about Giannis as well too is it's kind of a love and hate thing for me because he plays the game with such intensity and like
always that putback over Kyle or over Steph in the All-Star game.
Yeah,
because Steph tried to avoid it so many times. He just lies down, doesn't let Giannis doesn't get in the poster, and then he doesn't see where the rebound's going. And I was like, "Oh, you poor little dude,
it's over.
You're thumped."
Yeah, even with the All-Star game, he was playing with such intensity, right? And like that's
like to lose.
He loves the
what
game.
Is gonna make him great because he doesn't like to lose. He's playing to make a statement, but that's also the thing that I don't like about him because I don't feel like he's having fun playing the game. But I guess you can argue like if you're winning, you're having fun.
It's true,
right?
But again, I think fun is for rec basketball and then pickup ball. You're working. This is a job. You want to produce. You want to win.
There's an entertainment. It's an entertainment business.
It is a business.
And like the intensity that he comes into is fantastic to watch and see because it's that LeBron style thing. The moment he you put the head down, you get the DeMar DeRozan smirk on with the grump face. Like you're ready to go, and like people want to see people who are able to
ball out,
dig into that part of yourself to ball out. Absolutely,
you have to. And I think it's only going to benefit him as long as he doesn't fizzle out. No big injuries.
It's the injuries that I'm most worried because he's long like Durant, and Durant has had big, long, lanky issues.
It's the feet injuries that worry me. Like not so much the knees or anything. It's the feet,
legs,
lower half. But like it's usually the feet that usually go on those big guys.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's going to be good for him.
He'll be nice.
Did you guys hear about the rumor that potentially we were talking about DeAndre Jordan going to somewhere else, the Raptors maybe? Have you heard about him going to the Bucks? I've heard rumors of him going to the Bucks.
I have not,
to
but
play with.
I'm not
Giannis.
I'm not opposed to that. Like financially, it's a bit of a gap,
Stretch.
but like they've got Henson, and then who's their other one? Thon Maker.
They have Middleton.
But Makers, no, I'm talking bigs. I'm talking people that like DeAndre would affect. Right?
Isn't Jang still there?
No, Jang is Timberwolves.
No, they have Jabari Parker.
But that's a 4 though.
Yeah.
He's a 4-3. I'd put him as a 4-3 rather than a center. Because Parker's got really good speed, phenomenal handles, and really good acrobat skills in the air.
And he can shoot, and he can play outside the paint. He doesn't need to be in the paint.
No, absolutely. So, whereas DeAndre is a very down low.
He can't leave the paint.
What I'd almost actually, now that we're talking about like a down low, the word I was going to use was grit and grind, and that kind of brings me to think about what about DeAndre for Mark.
So
right?
DeAndre going to the
topic of Raptors, but you think about grit and grind bigs that are going to do grit and grind things. The two have very similar games, just Marc Gasol's significantly more polished and a better player overall.
Offensive as well.
100%.
I think that would be a fair trade, 1-for-1. Don't think that would benefit Gasol's career, which is what I think the Grizzlies have in their mind as well when they're trying to shop him around.
I agree.
Going to the Clippers, might as well just stay with Memphis.
Yeah.
You're not going to the playoffs.
It's a competing West Coast team as well, which is a problem.
So you're not really going anywhere. So I think Grizzlies, the main reason why Gasol is being shopped around with the Grizzlies is to, one, of course, help the team rebuild, as well as to do a favor to the guy that was their team for the last X amount of years when he was traded for Paul.
And 100% when he retires, his jersey's
he's
going to
go back to Memphis.
100%.
Of course.
Which I was actually thinking about today is Bosch's one going to come up in Toronto, but we'll see.
We can save that for another week's discussion.
That's another discussion.
Because that is a discussion in itself.
Gasol, there was also early rumors about Gasol possibly being looked at by Cleveland.
No.
They would have to give up Tristan Thompson and the Brooklyn first.
That's a fine. That's no problem. Why they're going to get rid of Tristan?
Tristan Thompson is going to be gone.
For
Gotta
Gasol?
get rid of the Kardashian curse.
100%.
I think
he's a good Canadian guy, but
I love Tristan Thompson. I think he's value somewhere.
His player is too starstruck.
Yes.
After that championship, he's just been like.
I love Tristan Thompson. He's a nice local boy. Like he's a great guy. I think that one playoff run that he had when he was grabbing those 12 boards a game or something like that nature inflated his stats, made people think about him way more than they necessarily should have. He is still a role player big man. He is a good guy to come off the bench. I don't want to say Amir Johnson, but like an Amir Johnson type of role. Like he won't lead your team in rebounding. He shouldn't lead your team in like touches down low.
No,
but he
definitely
is
not that.
A good player to have on the bench.
So one of the things that we had him, or Cleveland had him for, I like to say we because I love LeBron, but Tristan Thompson was a pick and roll guy. He was a player. He was a role player, and a lot of pick and rolls and offensive rebounds. Shot blocking, kind of there, but
too small.
What if you replace him?
No, he's too small. You're right.
What if you replace him with a DeAndre Jordan?
I'm not opposed to that, especially if you're going to use him just on the defensive end and a pick and roll.
Right.
But not a pick and roll necessarily getting it, because especially with Thomas back, that's going to be Thomas going to have that down screen and Thomas is ducking behind it and shooting. Yeah. That's Thomas's shot. That's his jam is the pick down screen shot.
And especially with the way the Cavs are playing, they like to run and gun a little bit. DeAndre Jordan isn't the fastest guy, but he's athletic.
He gets up and down the court, no issue.
He can get there, so I think it would benefit Cleveland. But then realistically, any center that you put on Cleveland, it would benefit. Like they just need a solid big man down low.
And they tried Mozgov, that didn't
work. They tried Bogut, got injured in the first game, that didn't work.
I like Bogut too.
Bogut's a solid guy.
He's a solid guy. They've had good players. It's just
they
doesn't
definitely
work.
dipped him. It was like, really, you're injured right away.
Like that was unlucky. That was just like the basketball gods not favoring you.
No, and I mean like Cleveland, I think is one of those cursed teams that even with LBG doing what he can, like Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose. Really.
That's unfortunate as well.
See, it's not even the injury that concerns me. It's the other talk.
It's the mindset.
It's I'm not sure if I want to stick with the game of basketball anymore.
To me, that is a mental checkout, and I don't want that on my team.
No, agreed.
If you have to think of, do I want to do this anymore? You don't want to do this anymore.
My biggest concern with that, too, is like D. Rose built himself a fantastic business outside of ball. The problem is that he needs ball to have the business. And that's why I think he's kind of on the fence about whether it's the clash. Should I stay or should I go now? That's what it is. Because a lot of his endorsements to sponsorships and everything else will be gone. If he can hold on for enough and start to put his money in the bank to set himself up for a longer term, then I think he'll drop out. But until the finances aren't like needed for him, until his finances are fine if he goes, he won't go. But once the finances are good, he's done. Guaranteed. Because like he has no again, he's been injured. He had his 15 minutes of fame, right? Rookie of the year and every MVP. Like he had an unreal opening to his career, like unreal. Mm-hmm. And if that had
been youngest MVP in the NBA ever.
And if that had been the end of it, I think people would have been happy. I think he would have been happy. It would have been like, wow, that was like it was a quick little career, but it was really great. But look at Yao Ming. Realistically, over the course of what a long NBA career is, right? Yao's was short, but he's still hailed as one of the greatest centers of all time. That was a short career. Derrick Rose, had he ended quickly, like after maybe not right after the injury, but like come back, play a couple years, realize like, you know what, okay, my numbers are kind of going down, I should probably dip out, then that would have been a respectable situation where he came and played on real basketball, and unfortunately, because of an injury, he didn't get to realize his fullest potential, and that would have been a fine conversation. That's an open the book, like it's a chapter in a book. You're good. You're like, I like that chapter. But like where the chapter keeps going, and he's like, he tried and tried and tried, and
two other
just never
teams.
got to where he needed to be. That's a sad ending to what could have been an otherwise really good one-trick pony kind of story.
I don't know if the money is that big of a deal to him. Like I know he had an interview this morning as well too, and he said money's not an issue because he saved up what he needs.
So there you go.
And like if money was the issue, he wouldn't have signed a minimum contract with Cleveland
That's
as
true.
well, right?
I agree with that.
I don't think
But-
anyone would have given
I
anything
mean,
more than minimum.
with the bone spur, the bone spur was something that nobody knew about. He was the only one that knew about it. I think that's what was bothering him mentally, because he knew that it's not just an ankle sprain that he had, which everyone thought it was. He knew about this bone spur that is like, okay,
Well,
it's
Kayla
not
had the
just
same
an
thing with the
ankle
wrist,
sprain.
right?
Right.
When he went out before the playoffs last year or something like that, he was like, "Yeah, I've got this one issue. I just want to clear it up before the playoffs." Smart decision. Smart
Right.
decision.
Got him that ring.
Like, smart decision.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. Like I really like Derrick Rose. I do want to see him come back, and I'm a big believer in these high risk players. I love these high risk
Clearly,
players.
Ben Simmons and
Yeah.
Embiid.
I think I still want to believe he can get back to his old form, because like last year in New York, he did have flashes of it. The first 2 years, he wasn't playing that well. I'll be honest, but last year there was some explosiveness in his game.
So, coming from a player's perspective, there are days where you haven't played the day before, right? So you practice like most days of the week. You get a day off, and then you go out to like a practice or something like that,
And you ball out.
and you feel unreal. You dunk every single shot. You eat everybody in the post. Your dribble moves as a big you didn't even know you had, you start doing, and you do them right. There are days where it comes and puts together, but you can't pay a player or expect to be a player that's going to be able to do that every single day, because the next day, like I'm 26, and if I do a back-to-back, that second game, you have to like stretch, ice, roll everything the night before, so you're at least playable. Not like the best what you did yesterday.
Right.
It's playable. So you have a guy who's like done that part of his career, has had bad injuries. Like if he gets one of those phenomenal games, the next day if it's a back-to-back, he's in an ice tub, not on the court.
He's not playing back to backs.
That's what I'm saying.
I like Derrick Rose as well. He does have potential to give you those one games, like stuff that come out of nowhere where you drop your 25, 30 points a game. I would not bank on it. I would not put my whole team on that. I think he is.
You can have him come off the bench like D Wade.
So here's no, because Wade will always show up consistently, right? There are numbers you can expect that he will put up as long as he's on the court, and because he does what he needs to do to make sure that he gets at least that. The thing that we have with Derrick Rose is a badge in 2K. Anytime I see it, I will turn the player away. Wild card. If that thing comes up, it's not worth it. You have games where they're unreal, but you know what their season stats are at the end of the day? Garbage.
Thank you.
Right? You try to look at, and I'm not saying that Devin Booker is a wild card, but if you look at Devin Booker and you take out that 81-point game, those averages come down a bit.
Very
Right?
much so.
So, again, same idea. You take out all of the phenomenal performances that a player might have very sporadically, like we're talking 2 maximum a month, right? You take out those
2 or 3 a
performances,
season.
and their stat line is garbaggio. Like, you're looking at how much they're getting paid, and you're shaking your head. But because they've had those, like, 2 games a month that are mind-blowing, they're all of a sudden worth the money. And you can't do that because when it comes time for the postseason, that is not who you want on your team. You want guys like, and this is going back to the Marc Gasol thing, where I can appreciate why they are thinking about him for Toronto. They put in the same level of performance day in, day out, consistently, no drops.
Consistent. Yeah.
And that is what you win basketball with. You
Mhm.
can't win on
Wild cards and
hot flashes.
I know that
You win
firsthand as
long
well.
seasons by
With-
playing consistently and well.
With T-Ross.
I know my favorite Raptor in the most recent future, with the most recent past, was Terrence Ross. He was my guy. He was the essential wild card. I know Solomon's nodding his head. He is agreeing with me, but I love the guy. But he had that 151-point game. Amazing. Nothing else other than that. He might knock down 3 to 4 threes for you a night.
Okay,
But like that in the
Realistically-
playoffs, he is not consistent. That's why I was sad to see him go, but I knew it was necessary. You can't have wild cards on your team if you want to make a deep playoff run
No.
because they just don't show up when you need them.
the thing with T Ross, and like as a person, phenomenal.
Yes.
Community
Great guy.
involvement, phenomenal. Right?
Family
Athleticism,
Unreal.
it's the Vince Carter show.
Yes, he can
And
jump
that's
out the
what it was.
gym.
That was the thing, was that he was the
We-
show. His 360 dunks were unreal.
His windmills running down
Right?
the court. Like,
So that's what I'm
unreal.
saying. Like the show aspect of T Ross, uncanny. But was he there every single night? No.
Right.
Was his
Did he put in?
defense
Did he
there?
put in the effort? Like this is the Valanciunas thing. You take a young guy with a phenomenal ceiling, and they just like build themselves.
Coast.
No. They split it into a duplex. They take their house that was a high ceiling, all this space to grow and expand, and they turn it into a duplex so that they don't have to work as hard. And real estate market's not into that, right? Basketball's not into that. If you're gonna show that you have a ceiling and not push yourself every single day, like you were getting paid 7 figures, right? Yes, it can be a bit expensive. There were a couple guys, I read a report a few years ago about guys who were on the New York Knicks who were like, it's really expensive to live in New York. Like I live in Jersey and just commute because I can't afford New York real estate and on a rookie salary, and that's understandable. But at the same point, if you're in a situation like Toronto, yes, it's expensive, but there are so many GTA locations that you can purchase that aren't that big. So like financially, the only thing that you should have to worry about when you're on a basketball team, especially one that is like talking about the word contend, the only thing that you should be focusing on is getting better, staying healthy, playing ball the best way that you can. All that extra, like I love that he went out and was a part of the community. Pat Man did a lot of that where he would show up at Sport Check and stuff like that. And that's great. That's a really wonderful thing to see when players actually like involve themselves. But at the end of the day, like you need to put the game first and foremost. You're not going to get sponsorships. You're not going to get championship rings. You're not going to get any sort of accolades. Like not even going to make an NBA third team if you don't push yourself to be the absolute best player that you can be. T. Ross didn't do it. Valanciunas isn't doing it. Right? Bruno Caboclo is the all-time famous one that didn't do it.
Well, with Bruno though, he just came way too young. I think we just brought him over way too young. Wasn't he 18 when they got him from Brazil when
He
they
was a
drafted
little Star
him?
Trek. That's
what it was. Never left the country. They said he's done trips, but like he's never been an extended period out of Brazil. Culture change, culture shock. It's a totally new. He went from a boy to a man in a matter of months.
I don't think
And
he became the man though.
Exactly. And I don't think it's a hard transition. He didn't do it, but Bruno, I think he's getting comfortable being our G League guy, and I think that's where he's going to stay.
He's not even a good G League guy.
He's not a good G League guy, but I
Like,
think he's comfortable as
that's the
being
problem.
the G League guy.
You can't
So-
get. It's just that mentality, right?
It is. You can't teach that. Some guys just don't have that Kobe Bryant killer mentality.
It's not
Which is
all
fair.
about ball.
Which
And
is
I get
fair.
that. I get
But
that.
like
But
Bruno, I'm sorry. I don't know, wild cards.
so are we finishing with the rookie of the year? And
Yeah, since we're talking about the younger guys here, let's move on to the rookie of the year.
Before we make our picks for rookie of the year, I
mean
want to
pick?
bring up one debate that I've been having with a number of people around the league and stuff of that nature. I know most people are going to say Ben Simmons is the leader of the rookie of the year, but that brings up to the question: can you have rookie of the year when it's not technically your first year in the
Right,
Blake
right.
Griffin.
Blake Griffin situation? Ben Simmons is going through it here right now. They did technically get a red shirt of their first year, but that is, without playing a game, it is a leg up over every other rookie.
Because you still get to train with the
You
NBA
get
level.
to train with them. You get to
Yeah.
talk to the
Yes.
NBA players on a regular basis. You get to see what other people are doing that will help you in
Yes.
your
Yes.
in your full season.
Yes,
I agree.
Is it an unfair advantage for Ben Simmons for having that red shirt year?
I do agree.
And if
yes.
it isn't, do you think it's smart for other teams to do that, to draft someone that might not necessarily be ready, put them on their G League, on their bench, get them accustomed to the NBA lifestyle, and then put them on the court in the second year?
That
to
sounds
keep
like a
the
great
rookie?
idea because you're developing talent and really pushing people to push themselves. So I'm okay with that. With the Ben Simmons situation, we all know that if he played this well last year, it's a walk-off. He gets the rookie of the year, no question. Right? So at least this time it's a bit of a competition. There is some, I mean, it's still a bit of a walk-off, but
Yeah.
there are players, Donovan Mitchell,
Dennis
Laurie
Smith Jr.
Markkanen, Dennis Smith Jr., right? That are Josh Jackson. Like they're putting in the effort to try to like be good ballers. And I like to see that. It's good to have that level of competition.
And I think, Peter, like where you're going, I think the league is kind of going in that direction because they're trying to get rid of that one and done. So I think basically they will be able to draft kids out of high school again,
I
and
don't think they'll do that though.
I think that's the goal. And then, but the goal is not to bring them right into the NBA. Like you said, you put them into the G League for a while, where they can actually make money, they can play, and they can develop. Whereas going to college right now, they're playing, they're putting their career on the line, injuries and stuff like that, and they're not getting anything out of it.
Getting exploited.
So I'm gonna come in here as an exploit's a funny word for what I'm gonna go here. Coming from marketing and public relations background, there's no way that they're gonna start taking kids out of high school and putting them in the G League. Why? The NCAA financial revenue is tremendous. If you start picking out these potential NCAA
mega
superstars, right, at that level, right, JJ Redick's of Duke, the Duke man, right, and you
Adam
start
Morrison.
taking them out and cheating colleges, you're gonna have a huge battle between the NBA and the NCAA, and you can't
Yeah.
have that. What I will say is that if a team is considering a player who's coming out of high school and going to a college, potentially working out a deal where there are days where that player, instead of practicing with their team, comes and practices with the NBA team, right? Similar to like an informal training camp, so that they see what the level of intensity that they should be doing in college to prepare themselves. I'm okay with that, but you can't cheat the NCAA.
Well,
But in that kind of situation, sorry to cut you off there, Dan. But in that kind of situation, would you have to use a draft pick on them? Because that's not really fair for them to come. Say this superstar NCAA comes and trains with the Raptors twice a week, whatever the situation may be, and then on draft day doesn't fall the Raptors' way. He goes somewhere else. Is it fair that the Raptors are putting the resources into this guy and doesn't get to reap the rewards on actual draft day?
so one of the things I also want to add to that as well too is that the idea of it, yes, it's kind of taking away players from the colleges, but at the same time, there's a lot of players out there that are literally going to college just to be one and done. They have no intention of finishing school, and then there are players there that do want to get that college level experience as well too.
See, I'm not
So
opposed to what you're saying, that there are one and dones, but again, it's still cutting into
it
the
is for sure.
NCAA, and you just can't have that.
I agree because the NCAA is $1 billion market. It's $1 billion industry. They
You
get
say March
tons of
Madness
money.
to even people who don't know basketball,
They
they know
love
what
it.
March Madness is.
I have talked to so many people that don't call themselves basketball minds, but they watch March Madness just because of all the buzz and the hype behind it, and
That's it.
purely feeding into the craziness of March Madness.
Yep.
And they don't even watch NBA basketball.
They don't even watch
you
NCAA
can't-
basketball.
Exactly.
It's
You
just for March
can't-
Madness.
You can't take them away. I think the best thing that the NBA has done was put that one rule in, so they can't draft from high school anymore. You have to do 1 year of college or at least 1 year abroad. Like Brandon Knight do 1 year in Europe before he came,
something like that, yeah.
something like that. So I think that even doing it that way might be beneficial for
Yeah.
players. I don't see them coming from high school. I like the idea of doing like a mentorship program with the NCAA, having one school with one team, trying to work out a relationship to get their guys accustomed to the NBA. I don't mind that. It just comes into the question of the draft pick.
Yes.
If you put your resources in them and you don't get them at the end, what's the point?
So here's where I am agreeing with you. That is an obstacle that they would be facing, but the realistic thing is that you're not going to put, or you shouldn't put all your money on one horse, right? You're not only going to invite one player, right? Similar to when you do a pre-draft workouts and stuff like that. Same idea, right? You bring out a couple
10,
players,
15.
right? Show that you're interested in them. Put your feelers out because scouts are good.
Oh, they're great.
Scouts are good. So if a scout is sitting there saying, "Oh, like all these guys are going to Toronto, and Toronto's training these rookies like fiend, we have to get at least one of them," sure. But then, if as long as other teams are doing their due diligence and finding their own players, or even maybe the same players, right? Ideally, you want to grab players who are closer. So for Toronto, that's hard because you start going into like Canadian universities, not NCAA stuff. But same idea is if you could work it out that you can get closer players, right? Then you almost have the NBA agreeing as wide that whatever colleges or that are closer to you that can participate in your training without interrupting their school schedule or having to be flown across the country, something like that. It's not necessarily your responsibility, but you are encouraged to allow them to prepare for the NBA level. Then really, it's no hard feelings because everybody could be training somebody else's draft pick.
But I think for a lot of these young players, it's not even about the experience or going to college and getting that training. It's about putting their bodies on the line and not getting anything out of it. Like
That's
And going
part of
back
the
to
game.
the word, but going back to the word of exploiting, like their school makes millions of dollars from these trademark names, from their jersey sales. Well, like
Yep.
not necessarily jersey sales, but like jersey sales, tickets, putting their face on posters, on
Yep.
programs. That just brings in the sponsorship money, the alumni money going into these kids, where these kids are having problems buying food, buying books. Their scholarships only go so far. So that's why I go into the word of exploiting those players in the NCAA. There should be some sort of kickback for these guys. They're giving you a service.
If anything, like from this entire thing, I feel like it should pressure the NCAA to maybe do more for the players.
Yes, but then I know, being the devil's advocate here, being the NCAA, what else can we do? We give them free education. We give them free board.
Right.
Like, what else can we do other than buying them homes and cars? That's not really fair. So I understand from the NCAA's point of view, there should still be some sort of
But that's where I
supplement.
think if there was a supplement, it would be done through the NBA, right? Because if you're gonna train these guys and take them out of that schedule and stuff like that, right? Give them some sort of. But again, the hard part is that you have to kind of see that potential deep,
Not everybody makes it.
right? You
So
have to see that potential deep. So there's a lot of argument and discussion in that. I mean,
there's no right answer.
it's a cool thing to think about, but
Yeah.
realistically, there are so many issues that would have to be ironed out and pinned down beforehand that it's a tough call.
It's impossible. It's almost impossible.
All right, so back to the Rookie of the Year stuff. Before the season even started, who did you guys have in mind for maybe even the top two people that would have been in the Rookie of the Year discussion?
In all honesty, Ben Simmons was not on my radar. I knew he was going to be good. Didn't think he was going to be like this.
Come on.
But before the season started, I realistically I had no idea. Like, I thought it was going to be any man's race, just purely because I thought as a whole this rookie draft class was on the weaker end of things.
Not last year's though.
But yeah, but on a whole was a little bit weaker than what normally we would see. So I thought it would be any man's race. Any man's race.
I was definitely. I had seen a lot of the video of Simmons training and everything else, and I was like, his game looks polished. Like he's put in the time to make sure that he's playing ball. He's not going out there for his first time. He's playing ball, and there's a bit of a difference in that. And he showed that he was ready for that. Lonzo, I mean, preseason we saw a lot from him, but like before the draft, what I've been calling him as a Rookie of the Year, no, all it was hype and speculation from his dad,
Right.
and that's bad for him. Good, bad, whatever. But for me, I think the big one that I was high on before the draft was Darren Fox. Darren Fox was one that I was like,
Bit of a disappointment.
man,
so
this
far.
guy looks like he's going to be pretty solid. And you're right, he has. I mean, it's hard. I mean, he's playing behind George Hill in Sacramento, and I mean it's Sacramento, so I think a lot of his skill set's kind of wasted, unfortunately.
For me, I was on the Ben Simmons train. The
Yeah,
whole
we know.
time.
We bought his, we bought his
Mr.
jersey
Jersey
after
draft day.
But even before that, like maybe it was because I was already in the Philly hype. I was in the mind a season
Yeah.
ago. I was also looking at Markel Fultz.
Me too. Number
Right,
one
so-
draft pick,
Markel
always
Fultz?
always
Yeah.
should be there. Always should be in the conversation. But he out for the season now, or he had a
Oh,
significant
I don't know
injury.
if he's out for the season.
But he had an injury. I know he's not playing
Yeah,
currently.
there's something with his shoulder.
Yeah, his shooting shoulder. So he's trying to switch to his left-handed shot.
No,
But I don't know if it's season-ending.
I don't
but
like
know-
I don't like that word coming out of your mouth. Switching to the left-handed shot.
He
Ugh.
look. I read an article because he
Yeah.
didn't like the shot that he was getting with his right shoulder, so he
Yes.
is trying to transition to a left-handed shot,
Right.
which is not
Right.
out of the realm of possibility. LeBron James is a naturally left-handed player, naturally left-handed person.
Yeah.
But he shoots right,
Right.
so it's not impossible. It's going to
And
be
Tristan
damn near
Thompson.
hard, but it is possible.
Yeah.
But then again, Marquise Fultz, his game wasn't a shooting. Like his whole game wasn't just shooting.
But he had a decent
He
jumper.
had a decent
like it was
jumper.
better than Ben Simmons' jumper for
Fair.
They
sure.
have him. They have him listed as out
Day-to-day?
without a timetable. No,
Yeah.
Without a timetable.
And
That's what
even
it was.
before preseason, when he was in the summer camps or
Summer League
summer league,
in Vegas.
he was shooting well there too. You could see his free throws were actually looking nice. But once preseason came, it was like, whoa, what the hell happened to your free throw?
Yeah.
It looks like you don't know
He
how
had
to
a
shoot a
hitch.
free throw. Yeah.
He had a hitch at the top of the
And-
shot.
I mean, you can see him wearing the tape, the athlete tape and everything like that, but nobody said anything about it. I don't think he even said anything about it with his personal
Definitely not.
trainers and stuff, right? Until it actually came to the point where he had to sit out and they had to get fluid drained and everything. And it's like, oh shit, it's actually a shoulder injury.
I think it's more or less his agent or manager. I can't say this 100% confident, but I think it's more or less his agent manager trying to conceal some information just to get him into the number 1 draft pick, just to get him comfortable, just to get him into the league, to get the league trainers and the league um, medical staff to look at him to take care of it.
I would love to see him get back this season, man.
I think that would be the piece that the Philly would need. Now we were talking about candidates for Rookie of the Year. Let's put some names in on tape here. So of course, I'm pretty sure it's almost unanimous across the board on this table.
Simmons.
Ben Simmons is almost a clear favorite of
Yeah.
number 1, with respectable honorable mentions with the Dennis Smith Juniors,
Yep.
the Mitchell, Laurie Mikkonen.
Tatum.
Markkanen, yeah.
So Tatum
Tatum
doing
is
nice
the one
as well.
that yeah, for me it's Simmons, Tatum, Markkanen right now for
Okay.
sure. Like Mitchell's good. It's really early in the season to be calling how the rest is going to be
It is
down,
super early.
right? Markkanen's got the benefit of being one of the few good bigs on Chicago, so his minutes aren't going to dip. His minutes, right? There's very few chances that a trade is going to occur that's going to impact his ability. He's going to contribute. Same with Ben Simmons. Those are lockdowns, right? Donovan Mitchell is good, but if somebody else comes to the Jazz to try to put them into contention again, like they were with Gordon Hayward, that's going to eat his minutes. It's going to hurt him.
I don't think Utah's going to make that move this year.
I don't think so either, but
I feel like
It's a possible. It's a possible.
It's the possible.
Well, right now,
Okay.
Donovan Mitchell is their number 1 offensive option,
Well,
which is crazy
He has the most
Yeah.
3-pointers in the first 25 games of a season of all time.
of all time.
For
Of
rookies.
all time for rookies. For the first 25 NBA games,
Yes.
he had 62 3-pointers or something. The next was
And-
Damian Lillard and Curry,
Yeah.
I think, or maybe not Curry. But
It
still,
was Curry,
it
yes.
was Curry. But still, that was disgusting. He is Utah's offense.
Here's the other thing too. When they're looking at the analytics on this kid, he's already playing basketball the way that you should play in the NBA. He's not taking bad shots. Most of his points are coming from the 3-point line, and you can see that he's either shooting a 3-pointer or he's getting points right very close to the paint. He's not taking mid-range jumpers. He knows how to play the game already, and his percentages are good. That's why I really like him. I picked him up on my fantasy basketball team. Like, that was a steal.
For
But
who?
Just picked him up off of
Donovan
waivers?
Mitchell? Yeah. I dropped Tatum for him.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was like, yo,
Ooh.
I'm taking this to risk, man.
Okay, that's a
I've
big
already
risk.
been watching him for a while.
Whoa.
It's a big risk. Well, let's see if it rewards.
Trust
For me, my recent drop that was a big change in the NBA as far as how this player is going to play was I've got to get rid of Marcus Smart. I'm looking at him right now. And he's just really not great. But before that, I had KCP
Okay.
because
Yes.
KCP's
Oh,
like
oh.
decent numbers. But then I heard that Okafor got traded,
Yes.
and he's going to be the
Brooklyn
center pin
Nets.
of Brooklyn. So I was like, drop KCP, put in Okafor,
I
and
think
let's
that's
start getting
solid.
some profit.
Yeah.
I think it's not bad.
Because a lot of people, once the trade was like, should you put him in the fantasy? And like, absolutely, he's going to be the next Brooke Lopez of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like,
Hopefully.
without D'Angelo Russell, right, being in the lineup and being an offensive point, you're loading it up on Rondell Hollis Jefferson, which is a big
Mhm.
favorite of mine, and he's putting in the numbers for me so good. But he's a phenomenal defender at the 3, and I think he's only going to get better. Offensively, he's had to like forcibly develop his game and has improved. He's one of those players that I think, like, as long as he keeps his head down and continues to push forward, he'll really make an impact in the league. And alongside somebody like Okafor, who showed flashes his first year when he didn't have to compete with Embiid as much, I think as long as he continues to be the offensive force that he knows he can be, his defense will come. It's going to require him to push himself to get that
Right.
defense, but offensively, his game is solid.
Yep.
He just has to develop a better defensive end.
That's what Brooklyn needs, though. Brooklyn needs a big, solid man in the middle.
And they're not going to trade for him and not play him. Like, they
That's
gave
very
up a
true.
lot.
That is very true. Well, not really.
Didn't they?
Not really.
Yeah, they
Brooklyn
gave
gave
up, like,
up.
two
Brooklyn
draft picks
gave
or something?
up
Was it
Trevor
two
Booker. Trevor Booker.
Oh,
Brooklyn-
yeah,
Booker,
that's all they gave
Booker,
up.
and that's it. Was
Sorry,
it a
was
draft
it?
pick as well?
No,
Philly
the-
gave a lot up.
Philly gave up.
They
a
got
lot.
Philly gave up
Stauskas, some draft
and a
picks.
second round draft pick.
Yeah.
But they
So
had
not
to
that
give
valuable.
up Okafor though, because Okafor, it was coming into the Carmelo Anthony situation. Like he wanted out of that team. You had to get him out.
No,
if
and
you
I think
wanted
I
something.
think what a lot of the explanation behind a lot of experts behind is that bringing in a veteran with that kind of leadership and everything like that and that experience will help Philly overall. And I mean, Booker's a pretty aggressive defender down low, and I think having a little bit of grit will really kind of bring it. Because right now, like Simmons is very flashy. He's amazing defensively. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
6
like,
steals.
but is the rest of them is everyone else going to start hopping the bandwagon? Like Embiid's got the potential, but I think if Booker's like, yo, if you move your feet a little faster and go up, you're going to have a lot more like that little stuff that I've seen it with other big men your size. Do this, you'll improve.
Yeah.
I think that is going to go a long way for Philly.
They got 3 solid veterans in Amir Johnson and JJ Redick there to guide the young core too. So I think they have a really nice team.
I think we do have to watch out for Philadelphia in the East.
People were laughing at me when I told them they're going to be in the playoffs this year.
For the Raptors, I think the East is surprisingly closer than what people would think. Of course, it's Cleveland, Boston to lose.
I was telling people that Philly would have made the playoffs last year if Ben Simmons came back.
And hey, but if Ben Simmons came back and played like this,
yes.
If Ben Simmons came back and played like Derrick Rose, would they be in the playoffs? No.
But you knew Ben Simmons was going to triple-double. Come on, I knew that. I knew it.
Sure. Okay. Hey, you were right. If that was your assumption, I want to see that documented somewhere. You calling that before I believe you. But
yo, check my Facebook statuses. It even says there. Yo, you heard it here first. Ben Simmons is the next generational player.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stat check that.
That's okay though.
But hey, yeah, I will give you that one. But I think the East is going to be surprisingly close. I think the East is going to be a much better playoff situation, especially for games and series, than the West is going to be. The West is going to be all top 4 teams going through. But like through 1 to 8, it's unbelievable. Like even Milwaukee sitting in the 5th or 6th seed right now, I don't want to face Milwaukee in the first round. I don't want to face the Pistons the way that they're playing recently, or Philadelphia, or like things like that. So it's like, hey, I'd rather face Oklahoma City early in the first round of playoffs than Greek Freak or someone like that.
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
So, other rookies to talk about. How about Kyle Kuzma and Lonzo Ball?
Oh yeah, Kyle Kuzma's been in the talk for a while. I keep on sleeping on him because like LA for me, they're like
garbage.
Whoa, Kuzma's been putting up
Kuzma's
good numbers.
Kuzma's good. The team as a whole is garbage.
I mean, yeah, but like, look, we're talking rookies being really good here and
It's
being
true.
valuable at a team.
Fair.
I mean, it's between like Kuzma and Ball, and I mean, I don't think there's a competition between them on the team for it.
No.
Similar to how in Philly, even with Markelle Fultz back, I don't think Fultz and Simmons are going to be duking it out over them. They're just going to play ball. Right. But I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think I don't really know what to say about if Ball can pick it up to kind of really start to be a really strong number 2 contender. Because right now, 6'10", point guard to center, any position he wants. Simmons is a front runner and a half.
Yeah, he's heads and shoulders above everybody else.
It's another Karl Anthony Towns situation where it's like he's going to put up, not rookie numbers at a rookie level.
The only way Lonzo Ball will be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year is to increase his efficiency. He is shooting like 30-something% from the field as a point guard, shooting under 50% from the foul line as a point guard, shooting under 25% from the 3 as a point guard.
Did you say it's more disappointing than Rubio?
Yes.
When Rubio
Yes.
got drafted,
No, don't, come on. I will say, okay, yes.
I thought Rubio was going to have a much bigger impact.
But as a shooter, as just by pure shooting, Ricky Rubio, Lonzo Ball as shooting, yes,
I'm having Rubio shoot the ball.
Really? Rubio over Lonzo Ball? I would say it's speculative. I mean, Lonzo Ball preseason, I'll take Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball actual season, Ricky Rubio.
Of course. So it's like, I like Lonzo's creativity. I like his playmaking skills. He has one of the best court visions I've ever seen. Like
a really interesting statistic.
What?
Has his efficiency gone down since he shaved his head? Was it the hair that was giving him all the skill? Just kidding.
No, because he still got the triple-double with the haircut. So he got the first triple-double as the youngest player in NBA history. So...
Oh, okay. So maybe if it was just fresh.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to keep getting it cut
haircut every day.
That's not under the wheel. Before we wrap it up, just to shit on Lonzo a little bit more, there was a recent stat that said if Ben Simmons misses like all of his shots in the next next 100 shots or something, he'll still have a better field goal percentage than Lonzo Ball.
Oh my God!
Oh, that's harsh.
And that is a good wrap up because Lonzo Ball, if you start shooting a lot better, not even a little bit, a lot better then you can be in the conversation.
Change your
for rookie of the
game.
year. Like, not even change your game, change your jump shot routine. Like, get Ray Allen to coach you up for a couple seasons. Like, you need a shooter. You need Reggie Miller to help you out or something.
Or even Kevin
Like,
Martin. Kevin Martin had a
Oh, he was
similar
a
looking
Kmart.
shot.
Yeah,
Kmart.
Kmart
yeah.
was a shooter. Like, you just need a shooting guru. You need someone to come and coach you up.
All right, so that's pretty much it for today. We want to hear some feedback from you guys. Let us know what you thought of this podcast. Again, it's our first episode. It's going to be a bit sloppy here and there, but hopefully you guys are entertained by it. Let us know. Again, this is the Raptors Den presented by Faulty Logics. Check us out on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is, and yeah, see you guys next time.
Signing off.
Peace.
Peace.